The Ars Goetia, a group of 72 powerful demons who worked under Lucifer to answer the call of humans. Some say to collect souls, but if you look at some of the old stories, it may have just been to spread sin. However, some of these demon names are also based off old pagan religions, so it might not even relate to the Bible. This video is made up of clips of 2 other videos so that you can learn a bit more about what the Ars Goetia and the Lesser Key of Solomon is. I'm doing this in preparation for the Demystifying Demons series that is going to be starting next week. The Lesser Key of Solomon. Its original name is Lemegatan Clavicula Salomonis, or translated into the Little Key of Solomon. People commonly use the name the Lesser Key of Solomon, so that's the name that stuck around, and some people might be familiar with it. It's a pretty common name, and you might have heard it in different mythos or TV shows or movies. The Lesser Key of Solomon actually wasn't even written by King Solomon, even though it has his name on it. It was written by an anonymous writer, and King Solomon never took ownership of the one writing it. So the book has a little bit of mystery behind it, and there's still scholars to this day that are still arguing what's accurate, what timeline is accurate, and what in the book, where did it come from, and different lores that it may have picked up from. The history of King Solomon is debated amongst scholars. Current consensus is that King Solomon did exist, but people are questioning when exactly his reign took place. He was the king over Israel and Judah. Right now, people are saying 10th century BCE, but it is uncertain. But we're going pretty far back here with this. The Lesser Key of Solomon was one of the initial works that tried to organize information on demons and hell and how people were summoning them and utilizing these demons. Now, the New Testament actually portrays King Solomon as a teacher of wisdom and actually says that he was a better teacher than Jesus. In the Quran, he's a major Islamic prophet. In most non-biblical circles, Solomon also came known as a magician, an exorcist, someone who had access to numerous amulets, medallions, seals, different things like that from the Hellenistic period. And a lot of people would reference his works when they were doing occult work. The Lesser Key of Solomon contains information on how to summon spirits or demons to help you do your bidding. And many of these demon names can be linked back to a lot of pagan gods, goddesses, minor gods, and goddesses as well. They went from being referred to as a god or goddess to some were being referred to as jinn, then being referred to as spirits, but eventually they were classified as demons. A lot of people believe that they got the name demon because the word daemon in Greek was a term for a minor god, and people just sort of incorporated that into the word demon. Because a lot of the demons in this book that we're going to talk about can be related back to pagan gods. So the lore is that King Solomon used these spirits or demons to help build his kingdom. The book, however, does warn that these demons can and will try to deceive you. The book gives information on ways to impress some of the demons to make them work with you, ways you can trap demons to make them work with you and force them to work with you, or information on how to approach each interaction with the demon to get the demon to do your bidding for you. The Ars Goetia within the Lesser Key of Solomon is the list of each of the 72 demons that you can call upon, along with their sigils for evocation. So the term, the Ars Goetia, is the label for this crew of demons. It's kind of like the Ocean 11 crew, you know? These 72 demons, it says, Lucifer has assigned them to come down to earth to do the biddings of humans. Mythology says that each of these 72 were actually fallen angels that rebelled alongside Lucifer when he fell from heaven. Lucifer has all the confidence in them to do his bidding because he is not one to be summoned by humans, but his hierarchy will take on that role for him. There are texts that show Lucifer does care deeply about his Ars Goetia. He can be seen referring to them as my dear brothers or my beloved fallen, which just further cements the idea that these are fellow fallen angels that rebelled with him. All of the 72 demons within the Ars Goetia are loyal to Lucifer. However, some of them are only loyal loyal because they fear what punishment would be if they didn't follow him. Lucifer, even though he is harsh in his punishments, he is actually kinder than Satan or Samael. All right, now right here, we're going to go on a little bit of a side tangent because you're thinking, Lucifer and Satan, aren't they the same thing? Well, not necessarily. So I'm going to explain a little bit about going back into old information about why they are two different beings that are a part of this mythos in our history. All right, Lucifer versus Satan or Samael. I'm going to say Samael, that's sort of like his original name. Technically, original texts before the New Testament only speak of Samael. As well, the Old Testament never talked about a hell or a place of punishment for sinners. That's something that was created in the New Testament. The Old Testament was around for quite a while before the New Testament showed up. But as the New Testament took off and Christianity took off, the text started changing and started being adjusted. But originally, Lucifer and Samael were two different figures in different traditions. So when the Lesser Key of Solomon describes them as two different beings, that is what it's referring to. All right, let me explain the differences between the two of them so you help understand it a little bit more. The name Lucifer actually means light bringer or morning star. That's why some of you may have seen in some TV shows and movies that, he calls himself Lucifer Morning Star. In the beginning, God loved and appointed Lucifer as chief of all angels. He was like the star of the angels. This indicated that Lucifer actually existed before Samael, because Samael was created after the angels were already sort of up and running. Lucifer fell due to his pride and jealousy. He wanted all of God's love. Essentially, he was acting like he should be worshipped as a god by God himself. So, the rebellion kind of occurred. He fell from grace. Other angels followed suit, and that's sort of where they landed. Samael is an archangel in Jewish lore. His name actually stands for venom or poison of God in Hebrew. Samael is not necessarily evil. His purpose was to actually be the accuser. He is depicted as a member of the heavenly host with grim and destructive duties. He's considered the main angel of death and the head of adversaries or evil beings. So he would be like the head of demons or head of sinners, things like that. Sort of in charge of the bad things. Samael is the ruler of the seventh heaven, and he's responsible for evaluating a soul's good and evil. This makes Samael an archangel who gives justice, and he gives justice for both angels and devils. He will also give justice unto angels too. God granted him that ability. When God saw the consistent battles between angels and demons and devils, he then created Samael to deliver justice. Samael more weighs in on a soul's sin and sentences people to hell and enacts punishments, but he doesn't rule over hell. He works with the rulers themselves. Samael is sort of like the muscle, and Lucifer is kind of like the boss. Samael is a punisher, so can be more scary to a lot of these demons and things that are in hell. He can be more sadistic, and he scares people more than Lucifer. While there are similarities in their roles and associations, Lucifer and Samael are different beings with different drives and different roles. Lucifer was jealous and led the rebellion, while Samael was created by God to be the accuser and judge and deal with the bad, angels, souls, demons, etc. So that being said, while all of these demons are loyal to Lucifer, some of them discreetly fear him or hate him. And some of them have a desire to almost refuse to follow him because of this. But Lucifer, he is harsh in his punishments when someone disobeys him or, pisses him off. If he hands them over to Satan for punishment, they fear that even more. So some demons are just staying in line because they're just worried about being punished or hurt. Some of them also don't want to lose their status as well. Okay, that's enough about the differences between Satan and Lucifer. Let's get back to the Goetian lore. Goetia is Latin for evocation of demons or evil spirits. It's derived from the ancient Greek word Goetia, which means charm, witchcraft, or jugglery. There is also an intricate hierarchy among the Goetians. A higher ranked member can give orders to lower ranked members. While the Ars Goetia appear to constantly gather in Hell's council to discuss events alongside their lord Lucifer, they also have their own quarters within Hell, which ranges from castles to underground fortresses or even separate dimensions that are tethered to Hell. And the separate dimensions are important, and we're going to actually touch more on that as they tie into some of the historical mythos that we're going to talk about next, and also they tie heavily into some of the animated show. Regardless, wherever a Goetian decides to settle themselves, they do modify the place to suit their specific taste, as each Goetian demon has their own taste. The original Goetian lore initially introduces us to a noble hierarchy with the following ranks: Kings of Hell, Dukes of Hell, Princes of Hell, Marquis of Hell, Counts of Hell, Knights of Hell, and Presidents of Hell. Now, obviously, there were other things written after the Ars Goetia, and that further expanded upon this information. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the other grimoires and some of the other texts that were written, and how they've tied in to sort of the knowledge and the lore that we're at. These other works were written from grimoires and other stories that were passed down through time. The works further cemented the Ars Goetia and then fleshed out the hierarchy and the environment for both hell and heaven and the way that things operated. One such important work is called the Magus. So the Magus actually listed 72 Kabbalistic angels that were assigned to each Goetian demon. So there were 72 demons, and now there's 72 angels, and the angels are watching over each of the demons. The Magus also organized each angel into a choir of heaven, and each demon into a degree of hell. So these were like layers of hell and heaven. If you think of Dante's Inferno, it's like that. And what's interesting is the Magus was actually written in the 1800s, and it was written based on a collection of multiple texts. And Dante's Inferno, which had the 9 layers of hell, or the 9 circles of hell, that was written in 1321. So Dante's Inferno probably had a pretty big effect on what we're about to look at from the Magus, because the Magus has 9 choirs of heaven and 9 degrees of hell, which matches Dante's Inferno of 9 circles of hell. And just like how Lucifer is the boss, he assigned archdemons and archdevils who look over the Goetia as well. And likewise, God assigned archangels to each choir to watch over the demons too. I know this gets a little bit confusing, but I'm going to show you some tables coming up next that will help you understand it a little bit more. But just think of heaven and hell as if like they were a business or like a mafia crime family. And pretty much there's always somebody over somebody watching them. Like someone is reporting to someone at all times, except for the big final ones, which are Lucifer doesn't report to anyone and God doesn't report to anyone. All right, so let me just show you this little chart here that will help you understand it a little bit better. So what we're looking at here is we have numbers 1 through 9, and we have the 9 degrees of diabolical spirits is what they called it. I mean, you can think of it like the 9 orders of devils or the 9 order of hell. There's different terminology that was assigned to it. So you have each degree, and then you have the ruler of each of those degrees. So each of those circles of hell had their own ruler, which was an archdemon or archdevil. Now with that, you also had a corresponding choir that was assigned to look over each of these degrees of hell as well. It was like they were kind of keeping an eye on things. So everyone was assigned a project and a thing that they had to look at. All right, so we have our first degree, which is false gods. A lot of the names in the first degree, the demons from the Ars Goetia that are in the first degree of false gods, a lot of their names actually can be linked back to a lot of pagan gods. So there's a chance that they put some of the powerful pagan gods into here. That's sort of how the Bible worked back then, is they integrated stuff from pagan religion and brought it into Christianity to ease the transition so people would stop worshiping the pagan gods and be able to move on to the one god religion. So false gods is ruled over by Beelzebub, and Beelzebub also sometimes is linked to being Satan as well. Long history with Beelzebub. There's quite a bit of information. So originally, Beelzebub started as, it's a Hebrew name, and it started with Jewish religion. He originally was a Philistine god and formerly worshipped in Ekron. And then he was later adopted by the Abrahamic religions as a major demon. Beelzebub is also associated with Baal or Baal, And Baal is actually the first demon in the Ars Goetia. So not only does he rule over this degree of hell, but he is also an Ars Goetian demon. Beelzebub is represented in the Hell of a Boss animated series as well, which we'll get to. So number 1, false gods, is looked over by the Seraphim Angel Choir. The Seraphims are the 6-winged beings that fly around the throne of God. And there's different descriptions of them. Sometimes you'll see them as humanoid looking angels with 6 wings. Sometimes you'll just see them as an eyeball flying around that has 6 wings. And the archangel that rules over the Seraphim choir is Metatron. And Metatron, as some people know, is like the voice of God. So these are angels that flew very close to the throne, and with Metatron sort of as their boss, Metatron, it's kind of like following God around, voice of God, writing down God's thing, speaking for God, that sort of thing. So these are pretty close to God. All right, our next hierarchy of hell is spirits of lies. Spirit of lies has to do with demons, I guess, that are at risk of lying to you or that lie as well. So degree number 2, spirit of lies, is ruled over by Pytho. There isn't a direct link of information on who this demon was, but there's some records of a Pytho being an oracle, and Pythia was the high priestess oracle of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. So it's probably, this demon is probably related back to that because of the trying to integrate pagan religions into the Bible and so forth. And degree number 2, the angel choir that looks over that is the cherubs or cherubim. Cherubs are the angels who directly attend to God. So they do things such as protecting the entrance to the Garden of Eden, doing little tasks and things of that nature. Cherubs originally are actually depicted as having 2 pairs of wings and 4 faces, which were a lion, an ox, a human, and an eagle. They had straight legs, and the soles of their feet were hooves of a bull. Eventually, they got turned into small, plump, little winged, like young-looking babies. I think most of us are familiar with Cupid as an example. The cherubs were ruled over by 2 archangels, Raziel and Jophiel. Raziel was the angel of secrets and mysteries, and Jophiel was of wisdom, understanding, judgment, art, and beauty. Jophiel was female and Raziel was male. Number 3 in our degree of hell is vessels of iniquity. Vessels of iniquity are also referred to as the vessels of wrath. They are considered the ones who are the inventors of evil things and of wicked arts. However, in ancient Egypt, some of these demons are linked to magic and learning. So again, this links back to ancient Egyptian gods. The ruler over vessels of iniquity is Belial. Belial is also one of the Goetic demons, and he holds the rank of king. It said that he's a very powerful king, and he was created first after Lucifer. He'll actually appear in the form of 2 beautiful angels sitting in a chariot of fire, but his true form is a devil. Now, the 3rd degree of hell, vessels of iniquity, it is watched over by the choir thrones. The throne angels are the ones that are described as a great wheel that are covered in eyes. A lot of times they might be like multiple wheels on top of each other. You might see that, but actually, interestingly, in the shows Hell of a Boss and in Has-Been Hotel, they actually make very accurate angels, and they make them match the original descriptions like this. So the thrones were responsible for delivering divine justice and holding up to God. The one who was in charge of looking after the thrones was Archangel Zaphkiel, and this is an angel that watches over people while they make important decisions. Number 4 on our list is Revengers of Evil. And just as it sounds, these demons will probably specialize more in revenge, even though all the demons can really do it for you. And the ruler over this 4th degree is Asmodee. Now, Asmodee is a very popular demon, talked about in many different texts later, and I recommend if you're curious, do some more research. You might also have heard of him as Asmodeus. He shows up in quite a lot of our modern media, but he is a pretty big figure in a lot of religious texts. There's a lot of different stories about him, but one that's interesting is he actually apparently told King Solomon that he was born of a human mother and an angel father. And Asmodeus is actually portrayed in the animated shows that we were talking about. He is in Hell of a Boss. The angelic choir that looks over the 4th degree is the dominions. The dominions regulate the duties of lower angels. They rarely make themselves physically known to humans. The dominions are watched over by Archangel Zadkiel, who is the Archangel Freedom, Benevolence, Kindness, Mercy, and the patron angel of all those who forgive. Now our 5th degree is the Deluders. The deluders are the demons that specialize in causing delusions. Most of them are specialized specifically in making people believe things that aren't true. Like, for instance, you can summon a deluder demon and ask it to make your enemy think that the enemy is like Pope or a ghost or a cat or something. So the deluders mess with the human minds. Now, the ruler over the deluders is Satan, and this goes back to what I discussed before, that Satan and Lucifer are 2 different beings. So Satan is actually not part of the Ars Goetia, and you'll notice there's a couple rulers over the degrees that actually aren't in the Ars Goetia. I won't go into detail about Satan, as we did discuss him quite a bit already. The angel choir that looks over the 5th degree is powers, and the power angels are given their name because they have power over evil forces. They're able to stop evil from doing harm. There are 2 archangels that rule over the powers, which are Samael and Camael. And this goes back to an overlap here. We're seeing Satan ruling over the side on hell and Samael ruling over the side on heaven. This goes back to our discussion about how Samael was created by God to be the accuser, the judger, the one who judges to see if someone is bad or good. So it looks like he's actually working both sides for this particular area. And this would be okay because he doesn't really serve Lucifer. He actually serves God. He's a tool utilized by Lucifer, but in the end, he listens to God over Lucifer. But that's probably why another angel was also assigned to this, which is Camael. Camael is an angel that gives knowledge and genius to magicians. Camael has the power to grant them everything that they demand. What also is interesting about this is in the Ars Goetia, the summoners who summon these demons, who throw down these sigils and things like that, sometimes they're referred to as magicians. Sometimes they're referred to as necromancers. So it bounces back and forth a little bit. So this is an interesting layer because we see crossing over demons, and then we see crossing over of magicians that might be summoning these demons, but there's also still an angel that also helps the magicians too. So this looks like a bit more of a complex layer. Number 6, the degree is aerial powers, and these are mainly demons that have aerial sort of related things. They might be birds, they might be in charge of wind and flight. Some of them also have control over the seas and water, so it seems to be kind of tied in together. The ruler of the number 6 aerial powers is Meryrim. Meryrim also goes by some other names: Meririm, Merisin, Meris, Metiris, Merahim. But he is actually one of the 7 princes of hell, and he is in charge of air, pestilence, evil, and war. He also has the ability to cause fires, plagues, and thunder. The angel choir that looks over this degree is the virtues. The virtue angels are responsible for making miracles occur upon the earth. They have like godlike abilities. The archangel who looks over them is Archangel Michael. A lot of people might be pretty familiar with Michael. Archangel Michael is involved in quite a number of stories and different theologies and religions. He's quite involved in battles and things like that, and he does show up in some tales of humans who are getting help from God and so forth. If you're interested, you can do some more research on him. Our 7th degree of hell is the Furies. The Furies are a set of demons that also are revenge demons. However, they have the ability, power, permission to also take out revenge on other demons, on angels, like otherworldly creatures. So if someone were to summon them for a revenge on a higher being than just a human being, they would reach out to a fury demon. The archdevil or demon that looks over them is Abaddon. Abaddon is a demon prince. And sometimes you'll see the name Abaddon used for the devil himself. There's different texts that give Abaddon different abilities and backgrounds. There's things like he controls an army of locusts, he's an archangel of destruction. There's different things like that he's been assigned to. So there's quite a bit of information on Abaddon if you're interested to learn some more. The angel choir who looks over the Furies are the principalities. The angels in the principality choir are responsible for guiding and protecting nations, groups of people, institutions, especially the church. And the archangel that looks over them is Archangel Haniel. He is regarded as an angel of love and able to influence romantic and sexual feelings between partners. So with that one, I guess it kind of makes sense. Number 7 is fury, which is anger and rage and mad. And then the angel side is like love and all that. So sometimes there's balance, or sometimes some of the things kind of make sense and click. The 8th degree is the accusers. There isn't a specific description on the accusers. However, their corresponding choir is the archangels, and the accuser is what Samael and Satan was called. So I imagine that they're related to something like that, bringing down punishment, finding the sinners, things of that nature. So they're probably within that sort of area of hell. The archdemon or devil that looks over this 8th degree is Astaroth. Astaroth is a great duke of hell and sits within the hierarchy with Beelzebub and Lucifer. He's part of the evil trinity. He is also a Goetic demon. He's number 29, and he's the prince of accusers and inquisitors. The angel choir that looks after degree 8 is the archangels. And now the archangel, it is a rank that can be given to the highest ranking of angel, but also this is a group. So there's like levels of archangels within the archangels as well. Some are like higher up, I guess, on the totem pole than others. But archangels are chief leaders of the angels, and they most often are the ones who appear amongst the mortals, and they usually serve God directly. The archangel who is in charge of the archangel choir is Archangel Raphael. Archangel Raphael is one who is known to heal. His name even derives from the word heal, or to heal. He acts as a physician, and he's also capable of expelling demons, so he's like an exorcist. The 9th and final degree of hell is tempters and ensnarers. And just as that sounds, we have our demons that enjoy tempting people. The archdemon or devil who looks over them is Mammon. Mammon is related to money and material wealth. There is a phrase that was actually translated by Jesus, apparently, who said, "You cannot serve both God and Mammon." So Mammon is sort of like the personification of money and just serving your life to greed. So it's kind of fitting that he sits within the tempters and the ensnarers. And the 9th choir of angels that looks over the 9th degree of hell are just called the angels. And these are just general angels, and they're the ones who are most concerned with the affairs of men and women. They're usually ones that send messages and accept messages, usually appearing as like divine light instead of showing up as a full angel, because that would usually be the archangels that would show up in full. So that explains a little bit about the hierarchy and the different levels within hell and heaven that are associated with the Ars Goetia. Now, as for the book itself, some general information in it, there's invocations of how you actually invoke the demon. There's different steps on things that you need to do. For example, if there's a demon that you need to trap in order to get them to work with you, there's one where you have to have a hazel wand and you have to draw a triangle with the wand from like east to west or something of that nature. You have to be wearing a silver ring and hold it up against your face And you have to order the demon to go into the triangle, and you have to keep ordering them until they do it. Once they're in the triangle, then they'll be in your full control. If you can still talk to them if they're not in the triangle, but they're going to be lying to you the entire time. Where in the triangle, they are required to tell you the truth, they're required to do your bidding, things of that nature. So the Ars Goetia kind of goes into a little bit of detail about things like that are just some examples. We have also some things like some of the invocations. So like there's an example of one. Thee I invoke, the bornless one, thee that didst create the earth and the heavens, thee that didst create the night and the day, thee that didst create the darkness and the light. Thou art, I can't pronounce this, or Seroniferous, whom no man hath seen at any time. Thou art Jabaz, thou art Japos, thou hast distinguished between the just and the unjust. Thou didst make the female and the male. Thou didst produce the seed and the fruit. Thou didst form men to love one another and to hate one another. I am Mosech, the prophet, unto whom thou didst commit thy mysteries, the ceremonies of Israel. Thou didst produce the moist and the dry, and that which nourished all created life. Hear thou me, for I am the angel Paphriel Osronophorus. This is thy true name, handed down to the prophets of Israel. And that's just an opener example. I think it's introducing the author, but it also sounds like an invocation as well. But I'll link the PDF file to this video below, and you can check it out if you want to read the whole book. It's very similar to, like, I'm pagan and I do a lot of spells and ceremonies, witchcraft stuff, and it's very similar setup. Like, it's just sort of following a lot of the pagan ways that you do things. So as an example, it's trying to explain to you why certain things are important to the invocation. So I'll just go over the list with you a little bit. So it says what's important to ceremonial magic is these things. 1, sight. So you have your circle, square, triangle, vessels, lamps, robes, implements. You have your sigils that you're drawing as well. You have your sound, which is your invocation, your voice. You have your smell, and that could be perfumes, incenses, flowers, things of that nature that you're going to set up. Then you have your taste, which is your sacraments. You might even have wine or something of that nature. Then you have your touch, and that could mean a multitude of things. I mean, even just touching a wand or whatever it may be. Then you have your mind. And what the book kind of explains is you need the combination of all these things to be able to produce the demon and actually have success in summoning this demon. All right, then the book goes on to explain each demon. Each demon has a better, well, not each of them, but some of them have better days of the week or months of the year that are better to summon them. Every person's birthday is assigned a demon as well. So if there's a demon that's assigned to you, then you probably have better luck in summoning them and getting them to work with you as well. The book also discusses the magical circle, which you should also set up even in my pagan rituals and anything else that you see, spiritual practices, a lot of people say to set up the magical circle. It's there to protect the person who's actually performing the rite of whatever they're doing. There's actually a little guide that actually shows you what everything should be drawn on the floor and what everything should be looked like. It also has all the Hebrew names written in Hebrew on it. And it looks like the circle is drawn as a snake. I'll put up some pictures on the screen as we're discussing here right now and just show you what they look like. The book also shows the hexagram of Solomon, which is to be shown to the spirit after you summon them, to compel them to take a human form and become obedient to you. The pentagram of Solomon is also in the book. The pentagram is there to preserve you from danger and also to command the spirits. Also in the book is the magic ring or disc of Solomon, and it's to be held in front of your face of the exorcist or summoner. So there is one particular demon who's quite powerful, but breath really bad. So you want to have this ring apparently. Otherwise, I guess if you get hit by this breath, you're going to pass out or whatever. And there's a lot of the demons that do just breathe fire. So I guess this ring is supposed to help protect you from that. As well in the book, we see some vessels where King Solomon apparently shut up some of the spirits. By shut up, I mean trapped some of the spirits. And this goes on to question, like a book refers to them as spirits. They eventually get turned into demons. The book also mentions that they're jinn as well. It makes sense to trap a jinn or a spirit. Trapping a full-on demon who's a fallen angel, that seems a little bit harder to do. The book also has multiple other symbols that show you just different things. This really reminds me of the stuff that I do with pagan witchcraft, where we draw certain things like somebody holding a wand or a fish or something like that. Like you kind of draw it as part of your ceremony. So this kind of links back, and it makes sense. Like a lot of this stuff comes from pagan traditions, and it kind of got built out from there. Also, the book mentions that you should have some prerequisites such as a scepter, a sword, a cap, a long white robe, different garments, girdle of lion skin. There's different perfumes and things of that nature. So you're supposed to have an adoration bath before you get started, and during the bath you're supposed to say, "Thou shalt purge me with hyssop, O Lord, and I shall be clean. Thou shalt wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow." And as you put on your garments, you also want to say another adoration. "By the figurative mystery of these holy vestures, I will clothe me with the armor of salvation in the strength of the Most High." And they name off a few gods: Ankar, Amakar, Amades, Theodonis, and Ator. "That my desired end may be effected through thy strength, O Adonai, unto whom the praise and glory will forever belong. Amen." This is very reminiscent to pagan religions and pagan ceremonies. A lot of times you do have baths and you do cleanse yourself before something like that. And you do actually say like a spell or something while you're cleansing yourself. You do have special like vestments or clothing that you would put on after too. And you might say something while wearing them. So this is all very reminiscent of pagan cultures and pagan ceremonies and rituals. And it just kind of got transferred in slowly into Christianity as time went on. All right, I'm going to conclude this video here. Keep an eye out next week for the first episode of Demystifying Demons, which will start with the first demon on the Ars Goetia list, Baal or Baal. Fat cat.